Babushka. If you were a Russian child, you would not watch to see Santa Claus come down the chimney, but you would stand by the windows to catch a peep at poor Babushka as she hurries by. Who is Babushka? Is she Santa Claus' wife? No, indeed. She is only a poor little crooked, wrinkled old woman who comes at Christmas time into everybody's house, who peeps into every cradle, turns back every coverlid, drops a tear on the baby's white pillow, and goes away very, very sorrowful. And not only at Christmas time, but through all the cold winter, especially in March when the wind blows loud and whistles and howls and dies away like a sigh. The Russian children hear the rustling step of Babushka. She is always in a hurry. One hears her running fast along the crowded streets over the quiet country fields. She seems to be out of breath and tired, yet she hurries on. Whom is she trying to overtake? She scarcely looks at the little children as they press their rosy faces against the window pane and whisper to each other, "Is the Babushka looking for us?" No, she will not stop. Only on Christmas Eve will she come upstairs into the nursery and give each little one a present. You must not think she leaves handsome gifts, such as Santa Claus brings for you. She does not bring bicycles to the boys or French dolls to the girls. She does not come in a gay little sleigh drawn by reindeer, but hobbling along on foot. She leans on a crutch. She has her old apron filled with candy and cheap toys, and the children all love her dearly. They watch to see her come, and when one hears a rustling, he cries, "Lo, the Babushka!" Then all the others look, but one must turn one's head very quickly or she vanishes. I never saw her myself. Best of all, she loves little babies. And often when the tired mothers sleep, she bends over their cradles, puts her brown, wrinkled face close down to the pillow, and looks very sharply. What is she looking for? Ah, that you can't guess unless you know her sad story. Long, long ago, a great many yesterdays ago, the Babushka, who even then was an old woman, was busy sweeping her little hut. She lived in the coldest corner of cold Russia, and she lived alone in a lonely place where 4 wide roads met. These roads were at this time white with snow, for it was winter time. In the summer time, when the fields were full of flowers and the air full of sunshine and singing birds, Babushka's home did not seem so very quiet. But in the winter time, with only the snowflakes and the shy snowbirds and the loud wind for company, the old woman felt very cheerless. But she was a busy old woman, and as it was already twilight and her home but half swept, she felt in a hurry to finish her work before bedtime. You must know that Babushka was poor and could not afford to do her work by candlelight. Presently, down the widest and lonesomest of all the white roads, there appeared a long train of people. They were walking slowly and seemed to be asking each other questions as to which way they should take. As the procession came nearer and finally stopped outside the little hut, Babushka was frightened at the splendor. There were 3 kings with crowns on their heads, and the jewels on the kings' breastplates sparkled like sunlight. Their heavy fur coats were white with the falling of snowflakes, and the queer humpy camels on which they rode looked white as milk in the snowstorm. The harness on the camels was decorated with gold, and plates of silver adorned the saddles. The saddle cloths were of the richest Eastern stuffs, and all the servants had dark eyes and hair of an Eastern people. The slaves carried heavy loads on their backs, and each of the 3 kings carried a present. One carried a beautiful transparent jar, and in the fading light, Babushka could see in it a golden liquid which she knew from its color must be myrrh. Another had in his hand a richly woven bag, and it seemed to be heavy, as indeed it was, for it was full of gold. The third had a stone vase in his hand, and from it the rich perfume which filled the snowy air. One could guess the base to have been filled with incense. Babushka was terribly frightened, so she hid herself in her hut and let the servants knock a long time at her door before she dared open it and answer their questions as to the road they should take to a faraway town. You know she had never studied geography lesson in her life, was old and stupid and scared. She knew the way across the fields to the nearest village, but she knew nothing of all the wide world full of cities. The servants scolded, but the three kings spoke kindly to her and asked her to accompany them on their journey, that she might show them the way as far as she knew it. They told her, in words so simple that she could not fail to understand, that they had seen a star in the sky and were following it to a little town where a young child lay. The snow was in the sky now, and the star was lost out of sight. "Who is the child?" asked the old woman. "He is a king, and we go to worship him," they answered. "These presents of gold, frankincense, and myrrh for him. When we find him, we will take the crowns off of our heads and lay them at his feet. Come with us, Babushka." What do you suppose? Shouldn't you have thought the poor little woman would have been glad to leave her desolate home on the plains to accompany these kings on their journey? But the foolish woman shook her head. No, the night was dark and cheerless, and her little home was warm and cozy. She looked up into the sky, and the star was nowhere to be seen. Besides, she wanted to put her hut in order. Perhaps she would be ready to go tomorrow. But the three kings could not wait. So when the morrow's sun rose, they were far ahead on their journey. It seemed like a dream to poor Babushka, for even the tracks of the camels' feet were covered by the deep white of snow. Everything was the same as usual, and to make sure that the night's visitors had not been a fancy, she found her old broom hanging on a peg behind the door, where she had put it when the servants knocked. Now that the sun was shining, and she remembered the glitter of gold and the smell of sweet gums and myrrh, she wished she had gone with the travelers, and she thought a great deal about the dear baby the three kings had gone to worship. She had no children of her own. Nobody loved her. Oh, if only she had gone! The more she brooded on the thought, the more miserable she grew, till the very sight of her home became hateful to her. It is a dreadful feeling to realize that one has lost a chance of happiness. There is a feeling called remorse that can gnaw like a sharp little tooth. Babouschka felt this little tooth cut into her heart every time she remembered the visit of the three kings. After a while, the thought of the little child became the first thought at waking and the last thought at night. One day she shut the door of her house forever and set out on a long journey. She had no hope of overtaking the three kings, but she longed to find the child that she too might love and worship him. She asked everyone she met, and some people thought her crazy, but others gave her kind answers. Have you perhaps guessed that the young child whom the three kings sought was our Lord himself? People told Babushka how he was born in a manger, and many other things which you children have learned long ago. These answers puzzled the old dame mightily. She had but one idea in her ignorant head. The three kings had gone to seek a baby. She would, if not too late, seek him too. She forgot, I'm sure, how many long years had gone by. She looked in vain for the Christ-child in his manger cradle. She spent all her little savings in toys and candy, as to make friends with the little children, that they might not run away when she came hobbling into their nurseries. Now you know for whom she is sadly seeking when she pushes back the bed curtains and bends down over each baby's pillow. Sometimes, when the old grandmother sits nodding by the fire, and the bigger children sleep in their beds, old Babushka comes hobbling into the room and whispers softly, "Is the young child here?" Ah, no, she has come too late, too late. But the little children know and love her. 2,000 years ago, she lost the chance of finding him, crooked, wrinkled, old, sick, and sorry, she yet lives on, looking into each baby's face, always disappointed, always seeking. Will she find him at last? Come, Bossy, here I am with my cup. Come, give me some milk rich and sweet. I will pay you well with red clover hay, the nicest you ever did eat. End of Babushka.